All right. Hello, hello. Welcome to the EcoWise podcast. I'm so excited for my special guest today, Matt Boule. Boule with an accent. Um, and it's spelled with one T. Matt is just an absolute rock star in the field of posturology. So he is a doctor of osteopath and he works outside the box with this brain-based modality called Posturology. And I am so excited to hear all about it, Matt. So please, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. And would you like to share a little bit about yourself and what is posturology in relation to mind body? Thanks.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jen. So I'm an osteopath by trade. So my main interest when I started out in my career was this idea of creating structural balance, right? So essentially just making sure the mechanical body worked well. And obviously, as you get to know your clients and as you start truly delving into how you can help them on so many levels, I realized that there were brain-based options out there in terms of helping them find that balance on a mechanical level. But as soon as you target the brain, you target so much more than the mechanics. So what ended up happening is that by using techniques like posturology and functional neurology, which is more US based, by using a combination of those, been able to have a really profound impact on brain body processes. And so that helps people move better, but it also helps them think better and feel better. And so that's what I've been doing for 18 years now.
Oh, this is fantastic. You have so much wealth of information and experience in this modality. And I'm really excited about how we now have just this emergence that's coming out of more neurological based connections to just about every modality that's out there. It's like it's coming. And so you've been like ahead of the curve, you've been at the forefront of this, which I think is just, phenomenal. And like I was doing some research for the mind body connection. What do we know about this? How does this stuff relate to the mind body, right? And so I was scathing your interviews and like kind of finding the little gems that are out there. There's so much goodness. And not enough time to talk about it all, but some of that stuff like the movement and there's these all these modalities that we have now that are based in, this knowledge of the brain and restructuring the brain. So before we dive into some of the other stuff, I would love to hear about how this works. So one of the things I found as we go into movement is the basis and the foundation of the feet and the eyes and the development as we come into this world. Is this something you would like to share just a little bit so we have a foundation on how this works?
100%.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
In terms of that connection between the brain, the body, and the mind, I think the best way to position this is to say that there are some psychoanalysts that consider that the psychological birth of a human being is when they start standing upright and walking.
Wow.
And it's essentially the idea of standing upright and walking that separates us from other primates. And we know for a fact that we develop a conscious brain, which allows us to have perspectives and thoughts about ourselves and about the world. And as much as I love my husky, Mia, who's 6 years old, I'm
Oh,
not too sure she knows she exists. And if she seems really happy when she sees me, I'm not too sure she has a very evolved emotional life. I think she answers to basic demands for survival. I think she's very, very excited to see us because we feed her. But anything more than that, I just don't know. And that's
okay.
where research and science is at. But with humans, what we do know is that because we stand upright, we do develop much larger brains. And one of the areas that we develop a whole lot more than other primates is this frontal lobe, which is the front part of the brain, which is where you find all the good stuff that makes us human. So consciousness, um, capacity to learn abstract, complex concepts, and emotional regulation. So what I started realizing is that as I was practicing posturology and functional neurology on clients, that these people essentially just started becoming better versions of who they actually were. They
Mm,
were experiencing a richer life and with less effort. And and essentially they were better at feeling who they were, at getting a feel for themselves, and essentially by that token just making better choices as they,
Mm.
went through life. So yeah, so that's how amazing this work is, really.
Oh, that's so cool. Yeah, yeah, and I think being so that kind of leads me into the next, I guess the next step would be like, okay, so we know where that as humans and our brain development, um this is where it starts. It links to it affects every aspect of our body. um so how does this affect our development, like as we I know like in the beginning you talked about how our development, there's things that can maybe change or deviate our development. And like we can end up with things
Yeah.
down the line as adults that you in your work are able to assess. And I'd like to hear a little bit about that, assess to see where we are stuck in our development process. And then we can go in and fill in the pieces. Is this correct?
Yeah,
So we
100%.
can
So basically,
restructure.
yeah, we can restructure, reprogram, rewire, redesign, revamp. I guess those would all be good synonyms.
Okay.
The connection between the body and the brain, which gives access to the mind, really, because
Okay. Yeah.
that's the byproduct. Between the ages of 0 to 18 months of age, a normal human being should be able to master 72 types of movement patterns. So that's a full-time job. And it really is. If you think about a newborn, their main job is to figure a way to connect with their bodies. And by the age of 2 or 3, they're able to recognize that they are a self. And that's really where life starts is, okay, I'm a person, there are other people, and somehow there's going to be this interaction. And we're all going to play this game so we can typically help each other. At least that's how I see life. And so if we develop properly between the ages of 0 to 18 months, the reflection of that in an adult is that we have good postural balance. So for example, if you learn how to crawl and you crawl with both legs evenly, you develop the same amount of muscle tension on both sides. So let's say a few years later, we assess the height of your pelvis, it should be leveled. And
Mhm.
if when we put our hands on your pelvis, one side is lower, that is the direct reflection of the fact that when you developed, maybe you had a preferred side. And so that's it. And so we can always assess at any point in time on any given adult, age 7 or more. So posturally speaking, you are an adult by age 7.
Okay.
We can always assess the extent to which you connected with your body. And if there are mishaps that happened on that very foundational level, it's even harder to connect to the more abstract parts of the brain, which allow you to have self-representation and emotional regulation.
Wow. So complex, yet so simple.
Yeah, that's
So,
well put, actually.
what's that?
That's very well put. It's exactly what you just said. It's complex, but it's actually quite simple as well.
Wow, so cool. This stuff fascinates me. Like, I mean, I like it. Just like it gets me so excited because we have the ability to sort of look back in time and then be able to understand why we are where we are now and understand ourselves. Like, those of it, like I've been on a journey for most of my life of trying to find answers. And it took me through very deep lessons and learning through the mind, the body, the spirit. And I've learned all these different modalities and finding to discern what's real, what's not, what works, what doesn't. Um, and I was lucky to be introduced to some of this neurological stuff. So I've seen some of your exercises online with the right and left hemispheres of the brain. And like I was taught this when I was 18 years old and through I don't know if you've heard of it, the Handle program. It's a
Yes,
neurological.
yes, yes, I have.
Okay. Oh, you have.
Yeah,
Okay. I was hoping you had.
yeah,
So this is why when I saw your work, I went, oh, wait a minute, this is coming back.
yeah,
And so, like the right and left hemispheres of the brain, I still have the tapping exercises, and there's some of those things. I started doing them again because I was like, that's what I need again, right? But so there's so many to talk about, but what I'm wondering about with this stuff, with these exercises and things is, um, you know, there's different systems yet. So, but what I'm noticing about your work is that I heard you say that what caught me the most was that there is a process of integrating these techniques at a right time. And I think that's one of the things the Handle program does as well. But I'm that's why one of the things I'm particularly interested in your work and what you do and how and what makes that different? Like is that something you're seeing missing in some of these? Because I saw another one that's like a neurological dance where you do those same exercises, but can you do something wrong by starting an exercise that's, not right for you too soon without rebuilding? Can you throw that off?
Yeah. So those are great questions. It shows that you've looked into it because there's a few options out there right now as far as brain-based programs are concerned. I don't think you could do anything wrong. I think you'll have a limited amount of results if you
Okay.
don't look at the big picture. And the big picture is to address competencies in a certain order, in a sequential order, because
Okay.
that's essentially how they establish themselves in the human body.
Mhm.
In the context of posturology, we do use a technology called the posture insole, which 24/7 turns on the brain to create better alignment, which predisposes the body to be in a better place as far as actual performance of these exercises,
Okay.
which then there's a series of exercises given a specific order to respect the order in which we develop. So, for instance, you've mentioned balance between left brain and right brain. Some of
Mhm.
these exercises that a lot of people know about are actually quite advanced. And so I work with what you could call 4 stages of development. And a lot of these handle exercises that you speak of or brain gym are what I consider to be stage 4 exercises. So they're very good.
Okay. Okay.
I'm always here to say that if something exists, there's probably a purpose and a reason for it.
Mhm.
So I do believe those are very good exercises.
Yeah.
Throughout my career, I've had to position exercises in a way where the given client I have in front of me right now gets the biggest bang for their buck with the specific exercises they need today. Now, 3 weeks from now, that's going to evolve. And it's actually a promise I make to them is that they'll see an evolution every 6 weeks, which means they'll be able to perform more complex tasks every 6 weeks. So at some point, we get to these stage 4 exercises that most people have heard about, whether it be the brain dance or brain gym or the handle program. But quite frankly, these are often enough for me stage 4 exercises. So that's
Okay.
just not where I start.
Thank you for clarifying that. That's kind of what my intuition was leaning into when I saw your stuff. I was like, oh, there's more to this picture. There's more, and I went through that handle program. I was going to get trained in it, but I ended up going in different directions. I was in orthopedic sports massage. So I was working with structural
Yeah.
body analysis and I worked with James Waslowski. I'm not sure if you're familiar with him. He is one I would
No.
actually enjoy listening to a conversation with you two because I think it would be very intelligent. So he was the head of the AMA, American Massage Therapy Association, orthopedic, the sports massage. So I trained with him, and he had a protocol that was very structural, somewhat like structural integration, but pain-free,
Yes.
using PNF stretching, using myofascial therapy. And so one of the questions for him and you, I was be like, I'd love to hear that conversation from different angles with the myofascial. But anyway, um, that that process is what led me into doing this work. So I saw the best results and people loved working with me because I came from that approach. It might not have stuck over, it stuck long enough, but this is going to lead into the next question is that my one of my questions here now leading in is about having this work be able to stay. And so I'm wondering
Yeah.
about pathology, um, toxins, environmental toxins, epigenetics, um, trauma, heavy metals, specifically heavy metals. How can that prevent this work from actually being effective long term? And can it effective in the now? Like if someone wanted to make a difference in their life, but they still had those heavy metals and stuff, would this be a not like it wouldn't work? Or is it something that would work? Yeah, can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah. So the first thing is if you compare posturology to a lot of the table work that's out there, whether the intent of the table work would be fascia, whether it be joint manipulation, PNF stretching, we know that if we lie someone on a table and we organize their system, it's going to hold for a certain amount of time. But when they get back up on their feet, the
Mm,
nature of their imbalances they've had since childhood takes over, and we have to repeat more or less
okay.
the same treatments every time we see
Okay.
them. And I know this from being a trained classic osteopath, right? Where typically we lie
Mm,
people on a table and right. So the difference with posturology is because they wear a technology that 24/7 forces their brain to create systemic balance. And we normalize their body against gravity. So then the
okay.
results stick because our beginning point was always to normalize them while they were on 2 feet.
Uh,
And so
right.
that's the whole difference. So we
Okay.
actually make a promise to the people that we
Love it.
take on that they will see a systematic improvement every 6 weeks in their condition. We're the only ones on the market to even offer such
Okay.
a guarantee. So that's number one. Number two, as far as the heavy metals, I'm totally aware of the heavy metal conversation in terms of like I
Mm,
understand the angle that you're bringing in. I
mm,
haven't seen it in my practice in 18 years be
okay.
um, an issue to the point where we don't see changes. I've
Okay.
seen
Good. Okay.
other issues being more significant than that, one of which is EMF stress.
Yes.
So that
Yes.
is something that I've had to manage more, and there are technologies available. So, for
I
instance,
I work with
people have
them.
their cell phone. We use a frequency resonator on the cell phone. Like,
Yeah.
but I've seen,
Yeah.
I would say, of the different types of stress from the environment, the number one that I have to manage with people. So none of my clients are going to be wearing an iWatch. None of my clients have the ear pods.
Good.
It's just
Yeah.
not right. So
Good.
that will stop me in my tracks.
I'm
The
okay.
heavy metals, I haven't, and I'm not disputing that there's
Yeah.
something to be done with that. What I'm saying
Okay.
is that on the posture system, I haven't seen that it's enough of an obstacle where I don't see changes every 6 weeks that are positive,
Fantastic. That's really good news. That's great news.
which is good news. Yeah, considering
Yeah.
that a lot of people probably are, you know,
We are, yeah, this is a ball of wax I've been diving into, and it's just it's huge. And the EMF thing is one that is a big one for me as well. And I work with scalar wave technology. It's one of the most powerful things on the market right now. And I normally couldn't be in any EMFs. Like with the cell phone towers, I had to go out to the woods. And I'm in an environment with 270 towers around me with 3 miles. Like normally I get heart palpitations and skin irritations, and I mean I'm there's so much to that discussion. But yeah, thank you for, so that's really good to know that that's one thing. So having that protection could really be valuable, is really valuable for people who are trying to get that just the whole structural strength, the mind body, the physical strength, the emotional strength. Gosh, there's so much we could talk about the emotions. I know you're a busy man, so we won't keep you too long, but oh, it's very cool. Okay, thank
But
you for,
emotions, Jennifer, maybe to touch a little bit on it,
yeah.
there are four primitive emotions to all primates, and we are primates. We're very evolved primates, but there's four of them. I don't believe in the concept of happiness because I think it's a human construct. But
Okay.
what I do believe in is that we are happiest when we are seeking, when we have a project, when we have something that we're working on.
Okay.
But human nature is that we're built to be forever unsatisfied. And it's actually
Oh
a good thing
yes.
because if we
Yes.
were satisfied by anything, we would stop moving. And if we stop moving, we die.
Yes.
So
Yes.
so as long as we can appreciate that, again, we're if at all we're ever truly happy, it doesn't last very long, and it's a
Right.
good thing
Yeah.
because it allows us to, it forces us, and we need to be forced. Human beings
To
are
keep growing.
lazy by default. Yeah, so we need to be forced towards our new high, our new kick. And
Yeah.
I think that's great. So there's four emotions. So one of which is fear. Fear is the most
Okay.
important of all the emotions because it's the one that actually gets us off our butts and allows us to do something about the situation.
True.
There's panic, which isn't really great, but it exists. There's anger, which is more rage, right? I mean, so
Mhm.
rage, panic, fear, and seeking. So I think our mission is to be in the seeking aspect of things most of the time. And I
Absolutely.
think that's where we're happier, but
Yeah.
we're very, very quickly happy and then not happy again and then happy for a second. And then I think about coffee, like I love coffee, like I'm a coffee addict. And that first sip in the morning, yeah, I totally
Cheers.
get you. That first sip in the morning is fantastic. The second one is okay. And then by the third or fourth one, I'm already looking for something else, right? To
Uh,
kind of get me going. So
yeah.
so that's it. So yeah, so as long as I think people are comfortable with that, they live happier lives, not trying to be
Yeah.
happy, because I think that's a
Yes,
bit of
you can.
an illusion.
Yes, and you can probably make yourself more the opposite depressed if you're really just thinking that you're supposed to be happy all the time. And I think this is where,
100%.
like, I was ex studying joy, and
Right.
when COVID hit, right, in the US and we had our lockdowns initially, I ended up being isolated, and I thought, oh dear, this could get dangerous. And all my intuitions and bells and whistles went off, and I said, how am I going to get through this? What brings me joy? Right? It wasn't about what makes me happy because I don't have to be happy about the situation,
Right.
but what's going to bring joy? I mean, literally just being able in to enjoy nature, enjoy, see something and see the beauty, still feel that zest for life. That was what I went into, not as like what's going to make me happy. And so I learned therapeutic laughter of all things, right? And
Yeah, yeah, I love it.
all the brain dopamine, all the serotonin, melatonin, I learned how all that dumps into your system by just pretending to be happy, be joyful. Like you don't,
Yeah,
even though it's fleeting, we still need these moments that bring us joy to stay healthy. So there, I
100%.
think is a good discussion. A topic is bringing that difference between, thinking we have to be happy, because that's where I think socially we program to be like, you got to be happy. And if you're like, well, I'm not happy, then my life sucks. It's like,
100%. A hundred
oh,
percent.
yes. Oh, we are going into some amazing times right now, Matt. I'm just so excited. Let me see. I'm gonna see if I have any more questions before your time has to go. You have to go right now?
Let me see. I have a call, but I don't see the person I'm supposed to see online just
Okay.
yet. So I think we have time for one more.
Okay, let me ask one more. Okay, so I'm gonna ask about structural. So if
Yeah,
someone is born and they develop a structural bone thing, like I have a jaw thing and it grew straight down. Okay, so this is gonna throw my structure off based on that. Um, or a spinal curvature where it gets reversed. Are
right.
these things that this posturology can help fix and reverse?
Yes. Bone, we often see and think of bone as this structure that cannot be manipulated because it's hard and it's dense. But bone is a tissue that's always alive and it's rebuilding, it's undoing itself, right? So bone type changes do take more time. We typically say 2 years.
Okay.
But over a 2 year period, we would clearly see structural changes with, I know my face doesn't look the same as it did when I was younger. And quite frankly, I'm more symmetrical. So I like to say I'm better looking than I was, even if I'm, you know what I mean? Like, even if I'm older, because
Yeah.
quite frankly, my face is a whole lot more symmetrical. I've been doing this on myself for so many years.
Oh,
I
that's
truly have
good.
had, my face doesn't look the same. And it's not
Okay.
like, it's not worse, it's better. I had more asymmetrical features. So,
Okay.
so there is bone remodeling that occurs either way. And if we
Okay.
create structural balance full time in the body, we do get to have structural changes that are positive and that work towards creating symmetry in the body at all times. So yes, the answer is yes.
Okay. Oh, I feel like I hit the jackpot finding this.
It's pretty honestly, it's pretty awesome stuff.
Yes. Yes. Okay. Well, I'll help. I'll wrap this up here. So, Matt, can you tell us, how do people work with you? The golden question. And then also, I heard that because I'm in the US and some of us are really like landlocked, we can't go into Canada. Do you, my question is, how do we work with you? Do you come to the US and like where you have workshops and you do initial assessments? Because I heard that you do work distance wise after the first session. And then I also saw that you said that you did some training of other practitioners in the US. So how can we get in touch with this posturology that your system is? It's so amazing.
The best place to go would be on my website, which is matboule.com. That's my personal website as an osteopath, but then I can I can guide people to, whether they want to become a practitioner in posturology, whether they want to become a patient. If they want to become a patient, do they work with me? Do they work with one of the people that I've trained in the US? Those are
Okay.
all possible possibilities. So the first thing they need to do is
Okay.
contact me, and I'll take good care of them.
Wonderful. Oh, I love it. Thank you so much. I look forward to talking to you here in the future about getting
We
work with
definitely will, Jennifer. Thank you so
you.
much
Yes.
for having me.
Thank you so much for your time, Matt. You have a wonderful day. Until next
You
time.
too. Talk
Take
to you
care for
soon.
now.